SMQBs episode 110. Just like Michael Jordan announcing his return to the NBA, this is Bison. I'm back. It's been about a month since I've been out of here. We're down 2 tonight, but we got Rooster and Pope. Not sure where House and Milk are, out gallivanting around, but not here with us. Guys, I got a question for you. First of all, do you know how many Americans identify as cyclists?
No clue.
No.
Over 50 million Americans.
So what do we
Now,
have? Like 300 million in the country?
335.
330. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 335.
A little
So
over
here's-
under a sixth.
Yeah, so that's a tee up. Now here's the next question. This is going to be a term. We're going to come back to this later in the show. But can you tell me, and I want you to listen closely to what I say. Can you tell me what a crit is? Crit, C-R-I-T. Crit.
Nope.
Sounds like a currency, like in crypto.
Not a bad guess. No, it is a bike race consisting of several laps around a closed circuit. The length of each lap or circuit, which is about 400 meters to 10,000 meters. So just store that in the back. That's what a crit is. You're going to be hearing more about that. And I think maybe not just on this episode of the SMQBs, but down the road a little bit.
I have a friend who does those kind of races and
Yeah.
says it's crazy.
Crazy.
In fact, it's something I'd like to try.
So we will talk more about
Why wouldn't
crits
you?
and biking and cycling later on SMQBs 110. Rooster, I appreciated listening to you. Remind our listeners that we are available on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get podcasts, and YouTube.
Yes.
So tons and tons of sports to talk about today. Pope, lead us with the biggest story in sports. What do we got?
Well, we just concluded another epic Masters with a marathon 30-hole extravaganza for all the couch potatoes out there. It was a day like any other. Wake up, it's like breakfast at Wimbledon, but breakfast at the Masters. Wake up and you can watch 10 holes of scintillating golf. Then you got about a 2-hour break where you can, do some honeydews and do stuff around the house. And then starting at 2 o'clock Eastern time, you sit back down and you watch another 18 holes. And in the process, we talked in our preview last week about a dream pairing in the final. And I said the dream pairing would have been Scheffler and Brooks Koepka, and we almost got it. But we got Brooks Koepka and Jon Rahm, a live versus non-live duel to the finish. They were paired together in the third round, which didn't finish on Saturday because of just horrific weather conditions. We'll talk about that in a minute, but not going to recap obviously blow by blow, but it was a very dramatic catch by Rahm to overcome a 4-stroke deficit at the beginning of the day. He cut him down to 2 pretty quickly. They went into the final 18, and Cupcake Koepka just didn't have it. You could tell on his first drive off the first tee box, he was way left. He, scrambled, but something clearly wasn't connecting. And to me, as you guys know, I fucking hate the live guys. So it was a sweet Sunday afternoon watching Rahm catch and pass Koepka.
Isn't this what we expected though? I mean, didn't we think these live guys? I mean, I guess the caveat to this is going to be Phil's day. We talked about that a little bit, but didn't we expect these guys to just fall off and collapse after 54 holes because they're not used to playing it?
Right. Well, I did text everybody. I said, poor Koepka is not used to playing 55 holes because you just seem to fall apart after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 52-year-old Phil Mickelson had no trouble with 50 something holes. I mean,
Well,
you have to take your
true.
hat off to him. You can be
Yeah,
mad at him all you want, but that's a
I
pretty
know.
amazing feat.
Well,
Fuck that guy.
I
Do you see
mean,
that he got like the definition of the golf clap when he completed, when he made his putt on 18? It was like people didn't know what to do.
Right.
yeah, it
Right.
was weird watching the crowd react to not just Phil but the other live golfers. But Phil has got 3 green jackets. I mean, he had a major love affair with the fans, the patrons
Right. He's
at the
golf royalty. It's not
Masters,
like Patrick Reed,
right?
who people hated even
Yeah,
before Live.
Yeah, but
right.
I think
But I
that's
mean,
even more telling. I mean, that's
yes,
Phil Mickelson, and half the people didn't even stand up for him on
that's
when he finished that round. I mean, 3
that's
years ago,
Phil.
what's that look like?
That's Phil
Yeah.
motherfucking Mickelson making a run on Sunday on the back 9 of Augusta. He had 5 out of 7 birdies to close it out. And yeah, there were some roars, but it wasn't like the roars you heard back when Phil made his charge and got his green jackets.
Well, compare that to the roar that Bennett got when he came up
Right.
to 18.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I thought, and Rom talked about it, but it seemed to me clearly that the patrons were favoring Rom over Koepka. And if you think about it, I mean, Koepka is an American. This is our tournament, and we got a Spaniard he's charismatic, he's popular, but if we didn't have the live controversy, I think it would have been a little bit more mixed as far as the crowd. But the crowd was clearly in favor of Rom, and you could tell it, and he could feed off of that. Some of the shots that he took, though, that he made, especially that one on 14, I'm still in awe of that. I don't see how he did that. Bent it around the tree like Beckham and got it up to about 2 feet for a tap-in birdie. But so let's talk about the tournament and what it means to live, right? Because live had 3 golfers in the top 5. They had 2 T2s, Koepka and Mickelson, and Captain America in his own mind. Patrick Reed was T4. They had 5 guys out of the top 30 make the cut, or 5 out of the top 30 were live golfers. So I mean, you could say that they did okay. I think Mickelson's charge was probably the biggest surprise of all. But does this mean that we're going to go rush out and start watching the live golf tournaments? I think they're going to like Singapore next or something like that. I mean, is that like must see TV now, or
No.
find your
What,
CW
like
channel?
on the CW?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Find a channel.
No one's
No.
watching it.
No, and
It's
and
not even
so-
the #1 rated show when they're having a tournament. It's not even the #1 rated show on CW. It's behind some
Right.
sort of reality program.
Does that? I mean, do they even have advertisers on the CW? I just don't know who.
Yeah,
would-
Pope's Law
yeah,
Firm.
you mean other than the
Oh.
Cochran firm?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think when you look at the leaderboard, one of the things that you say is the future for the PGA is pretty bright, right? I mean, look at some of these guys that are on there. You got Rom. I don't know who this Henley guy is.
Georgia
but
Bulldog, Russ Henley, he's an up and comer.
B. Tigala, a guy, by the way, who right there, he was a full swing guy,
Yeah.
wasn't he? Tigala.
Yeah.
So he's been
Yeah.
introduced. Patrick, Morikawa. I mean, you've got a lot of young guys
Yeah,
who are exciting golfers. And then
Hovland.
early to mid 20s. These guys.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, I was stunned that Rom's 28 years old.
Yeah,
I
he's
thought
been
he was
around a
older
while.
than. I thought he was older than
I
that.
thought he was 65 at least.
Yeah. But
Hey.
I mean, the live guys are going to go off into the I don't know, the wilderness,
Right.
and PGA has got all these great players.
Well,
unless you have an exemption, unless you're a live guy with an exemption, it's just for the money, because you're not going to play another interesting tournament in your life.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at it, probably half of the group that played for Live this time will not be back, if not more. I mean, you got 6 guys who have green jackets, so they're going to be back. We didn't talk about, Bubba, Sergio, Schwartzel, and DJ. But to be in the world golf rankings, you got to get points, and you're not getting points if you're on Live. And so it's, Bryson DeChambeau, he'll be back because he won the US Open and he's still exempt. But once those exemptions run, we're just going to see the green jacket guys. And I guess that's just going to be the new normal. And we'll see them in the PGA in Oak Hill in a month. We'll see less of the Live guys because you're not going to have the green jacket, get the exemption to lifetime to come to PGA. Couple things though before we leave that made this tournament really stand out. So we had the oldest guy to make a cut, Freddie Couples.
Yeah.
On and Tiger made the cut on the nose after Justin Thomas and M bogeyed in. So he made the cut on the nose, and then he probably would not have preferred to make the cut because he struggled mightily on Saturday and eventually had to withdraw from aggravation of his plantar fasciitis on Saturday afternoon and just horrific, cold, wet conditions. But Phil Mickelson, we can talk about him again. He's the oldest guy to make a top 5 finish, and he's the lowest round. 65 on Sunday was the lowest round over the age of 50. So that round really did stand out. If Phil had just been playing consistent golf, he would have been competing with Rahm and Koepka on Sunday afternoon.
Hope.
Bad.
I know you have a hard time finding the Zalatoris, but don't forget about your boy Zal.
Well, poor Zal. I don't know if y'all saw it today. But
yeah, he's done.
Surgery.
He's
done
ski
for the year. Had
he
surgery.
could be.
I didn't
Could
see
be his
that.
career. He's having back surgery today.
He had back surgery. He's already released a statement saying that he's feeling some relief. He had a discectomy yesterday, I believe.
I don't think he's ever going to be the same.
I don't. It's too early to say that, but yeah, he's such a small frame and he has such torque on his back. He's probably going to have back issues lingering, and he's probably going to regret not getting a major when he was so close last couple years. So before we leave the Masters, though, Rory, what a
joke,
didn't show up. Missed the cut. Sergio missed the cut. Bryson missed the cut. Don't know when we'll see him again. And DJ and Cam Smith didn't play well in the weekend. 2 guys who, a lot of people were popular picks at the beginning. And, the John Rahm coming off of 18 and hugging, you guys saw it, hugging a Latha ball, right? That was a special moment because, it was Seve Ballesteros is the godfather of Spanish golf. And it was his 40th anniversary of his last win, last green jacket. He would have been 66. It was his birthday, April 9. Sergio Garcia, another Spaniard, won the Masters in 2017 on April the 9th. And this is the most freaky of all. When Rahm's caddy showed up at Augusta, you get your aprons based on your time of arrival, not anything special. But his apron was 49, which was what? April 9, 49 yesterday. So it was all in the stars for John Rahm. He's a very popular winner. And I think it elevates him probably past Scotty Scheffler to back to number 1. And Rory's had a good year so far, not a great year. So are we going to have the big 3 going forward? It's certainly Rahm and Scotty are 1, 2. And, there might be a drop off till you get to 3. But
Rory puts a lot of pressure on himself at the Masters.
He does.
And he hasn't been able to get over that hump. So he'll be fine the rest of the year, I think. But he just
hadn't won a major in 5 years. I mean, he's got a big drought.
Yeah.
And he's not getting any younger. But
and he's, by the way, he's 33. He's the old man of the group.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So All right. Well, that was good. It was some fun golf, and thanks to John Rahm for saving democracy and all that is right in the world.
He was the
But-
last savior.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I don't care what anybody says. Fuck the Saudis. So, okay. Anything else on the Masters golf? Anything like that? No. Okay.
Not
Good.
for now.
Listen, we got to do a little bit of a check-in on baseball. You all have very graciously been waiting a little bit till I was back on the show to talk about this. But we're about a week and a half into the season now, and these rules were, well covered, well discussed. All these new rule changes, the pitch clock, the bigger bags, the shift. Personally, I hate the idea of a clock in baseball, but my position is the players sort of brought it on themselves. And there's some really interesting stats a week and a half in. Now, this is a small sample size. We'll see what happens. But batting average up 16 points compared to the same number of games last year. Stolen bases 30%. And that's got to do with the throwing over. I'm guessing that you can only throw over twice. And then if you throw over the third time, you don't get the guy.
You can only disengage twice. Like
Right.
even if you step off the rubber, that counts
Right.
as one.
That counts as one. And game time, and this is the biggest one, average game time is down 31 minutes. And it's on track to be the lowest game time since 1984. There's one aspect of this shorter game thing that I haven't heard anybody talk about or write about. Don't you think, for all the concern the players talked about, about being in the batter's box and the pitchers and all that stuff, they're getting 31 minutes of their life back
Right.
every
Right.
game.
And so
I
are
mean,
the viewers.
seriously.
So
Yeah,
are the
but don't
viewers,
you
more
think the
importantly.
don't you think the players are probably going to set into, I mean, these games are going to be 2 hours, 45 minutes instead of 3:15, 3:30. I mean, I think there's going to be a point where they say, hey, this is kind of nice. We're back in the hotel at 10:30 instead of 11:30.
Right. I think they've already adjusted and it's going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
I mean, the goal of MLB was to cut down on game time, speed up the games, and to increase offense. And they've accomplished both already.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to see a guy adjusting his jock or his batting gloves after every pitch, or a pitcher spitting and walking around the mound, doing all that
talking
crap.
to himself around the mound.
Just move it on, man.
Let's go. Get the ball and throw it.
I'm waiting on one stat. What stat do you think that is? The loss of income from the concessionaires. I really think that's going to be interesting.
Well,
right?
Yeah, it will be interesting, but don't most stadiums stop serving beer
around the
at
seventh,
like the seventh inning anyway?
Yeah, but okay, so I mean, extrapolate it. So you're missing 20 minutes again. I mean, that's a beer.
So maybe they just extend it to the 8th, since the game's going by so fast.
But there's less time to go get a beer. I'm just curious. It's not going to dictate what Major League Baseball does. It's just going to be interesting to see if that theory is true.
I was wondering during the preseason whether Angel Hernandez was sitting there saying to himself, "Oh my God, this is going to be terrible for me," or "Oh, great, this is going to be more opportunity for drama with really terrible calls by me." I mean, Jesus, I mean, this could be the Angel Hernandez show this year. There was one episode where the Yankees were playing. I forget who they were playing. And Nestor Cortez got called for a pitch clock violation, even though he threw the ball on time, because the ump said he didn't make eye contact with the batter on time. He tried to quick pitch the batter without looking, and they called him. I mean, that's, some of these umps could turn this into a disaster, but otherwise, I think it's really good.
Well, I sort of have to say, I hate to say it because I don't like changing baseball, but this seems like all these things are accomplishing what they had hoped for.
I also think the managers have proven to be smarter than the rule makers and have already figured out a way around the shift ban.
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Yeah. That didn't take very long, did it?
No.
So, yeah. Well, what do you guys, putting aside all the new rules and everything, I think one of the other more egregious things is all this interleague play. I mean, it just doesn't even matter anymore what league you're in. There's no, I mean, we start the season with interleague. We got interleague in the middle of the year. We got the end of the year. I mean, what's the point? What are we doing here?
2 words: Shohei Ohtani. That's
Oh,
why.
you think
I think
that's
so.
why?
Yeah, I think because not enough people see him play, and so National League fans on the East Coast never see Shohei Ohtani play.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to
Interesting.
expose more fans to more of these players that you never see who are on the Padres or the Dodgers if you're on the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true. I don't know. If it were up to me, I'd go back to the no interleague play and let these teams just see each other in the World Series.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm going to lose that. Well, look, I know this will be painful for you, Rooster, but I think we got to do it. We've got to talk about what the Rays have done to start the season.
The Rays have done nothing to start the season. They've beaten 3 teams that will be lucky if they get to 65 wins each on the year. They're playing the basement dwellers for the first 3 series, and then they go on to play the worst team in the AL East next, the Red Sox. And I guarantee you the Red Sox end their unbeaten streak.
Well, they've won, just for our listeners out there, our non-Yankee suck-ups. They're 9-0, which is the longest winning streak to start a season since, I guess, the Royals. It ties the Royals from 2003, since the wild card era has started. But here's the big thing: they're plus 57 run differential. And it's the highest in modern history for a team's first 9 games, passing Cleveland, which was plus 44. So they sort of shattered that record. And I think the other statistic was no team had won 8 games in a row. And I guess it's now 9 I guess they tied with 8 games, the 39 Yankees, to win their 8 games in a row by more than 4 runs. Not just to start the season, just period. But winning every game by 4. So I guess if they won yesterday 11-0, they're now up to 9 games in a row. So they buried that Yankees record.
Talk to me after they play the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Indians, the White Sox. Oh, I mean the Guardians. Sorry, even the Orioles. They haven't even played a team as good as the Orioles yet.
No respect.
What is the record still 13 games or is it more?
To start a season?
Yeah. Because I remember when the Braves got 13 in a row years ago.
All right, listen. I have an important question for you. Do you know how long it took Aaron Judge to get to 4 home runs last season?
17 games.
Correct. Game 7 this year, he hit number 4.
Oh wow, interesting.
He's off to a flaming hot start.
Interesting. Yes, I think it is 13. It is 13 games.
Okay.
Hope.
Anybody tie the Braves? Yeah, it looks like the Brewers in 87. They had 13. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, Milk, you got 5 games to make history.
Yeah. And hey, Milk, I think it's impressive. I don't care what Rooster says.
Milk, I'm going to bet you right now that you don't sweep the Red Sox.
He'll take the bet. He wants the action.
All right.
Is that who they're playing?
Yep.
And then after that, who they got? Blue Jays? That's not easy.
They're not going to.
Well, we're not going to make a bunch of picks today. But what teams, Rooster, who do you think's dangerous this year?
In the National League, I think the Padres are dangerous. And it's about time they break through. I mean, they just added Bogarts to the team, for God's sakes. They've got so much talent on that team. I really, they have to be the favorite in the NL. In the American League, it's
Here it comes.
Houston's still tough. They lost Verlander though, and the Yankees it's the same old thing with the Yankees. They start out the season and 3/5 of their starting pitching rotation is on the injured reserve list. They pick up Carlos Rodon in the offseason, and the guy is immediately hurt.
Immediately, right?
Immediately, they didn't even pitch in Florida. Luis Severino goes on the injured reserve. Frankie Montas turns out was injured when we got him last year and tried to cover it up. But the bright light of all of this is it's forced the Yankees to start playing some of their young guys who they're historically hesitant to call up. And they've got this guy named Johnny Brito, who they called him up and then sent him right back down, even though he pitched a stellar game in his first games. He's now 2-0 with an ERA of 0.90. So now we have Garrett Cole, who's looking really hot, Nestor, and Johnny Brito, solid 3 guys. We just need a 4th, really. And then I think the Yankees are going to be a big threat if they can stay healthy in the starting pitcher. Because our 4th guy right now is Herman, who's got a 7.71 ERA after 2 starts. And that guy's got to be, put on the junk heap. He just doesn't have it.
How's is Volpe playing?
Volpe's starting at shortstop.
How's he doing?
Well, he's doing well. He's struggling a little bit at the plate, but he's got a good
he's
eye.
under 150 at the plate.
Yeah, he's got a good eye. He's gotten some timely hits, timely walks. He's a good base runner, playing good defense. There's a guy. Look, we have a guy.
He's only, by the way, he's only 21 too.
Yeah, we have a guy. The hottest guy in spring baseball this year on the Yankees was this guy named Yasan Dominguez, who was crushing the ball. And he's now playing out for one of their AA teams, not even their AAA team. He'll be up sometime this year.
Yeah.
He's going to be a slugging star, I predict. I think he'll be probably their best young player in a long time.
Hope, what do you got?
Well, I guess we're not doing picks, but teams to watch out for. I'm looking at the standings, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't really started following baseball quite yet, like I need to. But is it me, or does the Angels? We're with all that talent, why are they not playing better? I mean, they're tied with the Rangers, and I think that's momentary. Rangers will go back down to where they probably will end up. But are the Angels going to make a run this year?
Never.
No.
They're like the Mets. The Angels are like the Mets, loaded with talent and find a way to lose every year.
Well, at some point that might stop.
I think they'll win about 86, 87 games.
That might get them a wild card.
It might. Yeah.
Unless all the wild cards come out of the East again.
Well, that could happen.
Yeah.
Orioles are looking pretty good.
The Orioles are looking good, and Toronto's a team that I keep thinking that they're going to make some noise. Their lineup I feel like their lineup's loaded.
Yeah, they lost some pretty good players though in the offseason.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
But for the Rays start, they would all be about the same right now. Yankees 6-3, Blue Jays 6-4, even the Red Sox 5-4. I think that might be a surprise.
As much as we like to dump on Milk's Rays, they're pretty amazing with the small budget they have. They have made the playoffs the last 4 years.
Yes.
Not many teams can say that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're they're great. And I don't know. I think the Angels could be okay. I think they could, hang in there. But man, I don't know. I just look at these things. It just seems like the same teams reload year after year, right? We've got the Yankees, we've got Houston, the Padres, sure, but the Dodgers are going to be right there. The Dodgers are going to win 90 games.
Yep.
again this year. Milwaukee and St. Louis, although I don't think they're not going to really compete with, the NL Central is not going to have the big dogs that the West and East do, but Milwaukee and St. Louis will be right there in that division. I just can't believe the Mets. I just don't believe in the Mets because it's the same thing every year.
How can we not talk about, since he's not here? Do we make anything of the Phillies start? I mean, they're the defending NL champions.
Well, I mean, the Phillies, to be fair, I mean, Harper's on the IL. Bohm is on the IL. I mean, they're not going to have their full lineup together until July. Right?
I predict their problem is going to be the same problem they've had for a few years now, which is their bullpen. I think this guy, Craig Kimbrell, is washed up.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The Red
I didn't
Sox were
understand that.
done with him years ago, and he's not the answer.
I didn't understand that signing. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. Which means he'll be an all-star since I said it. But I think the problem with the Phillies is you got New York and Atlanta in that division now, and even honestly, even Miami. Don't be stunned if Miami has more wins than Philadelphia this year.
Whoa, that's hot sport opinion.
Well,
I cannot wait for the response to that.
Wow.
Philly's going to struggle for 3 months. I mean, they're missing some big players, and they're going to struggle for a while. The only easy thing in the East is they're going to all get to pick on the Nats. The Nats are going to be atrocious. Although at least one positive sign is one of the pitchers they got in the Soto trade, Mackenzie Gore, is 2-0 with about a 2.4 ERA after 2 starts. So he looks legit.
Right,
long way to go, but
here's a question for you. Do you buy into the Pirates more at 6-3, or are you worried more about the Cardinals at 3-6?
Not with the injury to O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah, which is really too bad.
That's a shame.
Yeah,
that is a huge shame.
Yeah, the Pirates buy in. No, never.
They're going to start trading guys like that mid-season, like they always do.
Yeah, but that's too bad. He's going to be out, I think, 4 months. O'Neal Cruz, who's really not just a superstar, but a really kind of fun player to watch.
6'7" shortstop.
Yeah, who throws the ball about 120 miles an hour and hits it harder. So
it would be good for Major League Baseball to have a team like the Pirates, an old popular team back in the day to make a run and do good for the small market.
Yeah, I loved the Pirates in the 70s. They were a great team to watch.
We are family.
Even before then, with like Roberto Clemente and all those guys.
Yeah,
they were a damn good team.
Milk doesn't know who that is. We did a lasso on him and he didn't know who that was.
That's a shame.
So anything else on baseball for now? I mean, I think those are the, I hate to say that, it's the throwback to an episode that I missed, the Blue Bloods again, but the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets, Houston,
Braves,
the Braves. Yeah. It's a blue blood world, I think, in baseball right now.
I think the Padres crashed the party, and they are not a blue blood.
No,
they're not a blue blood,
but
they sure should have a pretty high payroll, right?
I was about to say they're acting like one.
Yeah,
I mean, they have a murderer's row batting lineup. My God,
mm-hmm.
They have 2 or 3 good starting pitchers.
Yeah. No, they'll be there at the end. They'll be there. So. All right, well, lots of baseball to go, and check out a game. It's gonna cost you 30 minutes less than it would have last year, but make sure you buy extra beers. So
have a beer in the parking lot so you don't miss that last one.
Yeah, so Pope is satisfied with you. All right, so we're 2 weeks into baseball, but as that happens, that means we got the NBA playoffs rolling around. Rooster, what do we know? We had a pretty wild Sunday to set the playoffs, and what do we got?
I think we're about to see one of the most exciting NBA playoffs we've seen in years. Like if you just look at the middle round games, the 4, 5, 3, 6 seed games. In the West, you've got the Suns and the Clippers. That'll be a hell of a series. You got the Kings who've made the playoffs for the first time since 2006 versus the Warriors, who this time of year, who knows what they're up to? They could go all the way again, surprise everyone. And then in the East, I think maybe the tightest series is going to be the Cavs and the Knicks. That's going to be a hard-fought, old-style East game. And then the Sixers and the Nets too. But I think the story of this playoffs is going to be the 7 seed in both conferences. The Celtics are terrified that the Heat are going to become the 7th seed and then play them. The Heat always play the Celtics tough. They knocked them out 2 years ago. And you listen to any Celtics fan, and they're scared to death of the Heat. They're praying that the Hawks win the 7th seed. And the same thing in the West. The Lakers have just fallen into the perfect spot here. I mean, they're starting out playing the T-Wolves, who are in complete disarray right now, with this Rudy Gobert disaster, getting himself suspended for that game after punching Anderson on the sideline, his own teammate. And the reason I'm sure he punched him was Anderson was pointing out how much Rudy Gobert sucks and is ruining the team. So that's not a good thing. And and then the Lakers are going to wind up playing because I think they're guaranteed to win that game against the T-Wolves. And then they're going to wind up playing Memphis, which has its share of trouble right now too. I think the Memphis is not looking forward to a Lakers series with the healthy AD, LeBron, and the rest of the characters, the supporting guys that they've brought on recently. The Lakers could make a run.
They have the best record. They have the best record since the All-Star break.
They've gone from horrible to a really good team.
And there's one game it turned it all around.
I seem to recall one Bison saying to watch out for the Lakers.
You did, and we all laughed at you.
Stares.
No, we all laughed at you.
Yeah. Yes.
Milk particularly was like, oh, here we go with the LeBron stuff.
Well, especially when LeBron goes down for 3.5 weeks.
Well, look, LeBron is the name, but Anthony Davis is the best player on that team right now.
He is. Now, the Suns have not lost a game since KD entered the starting lineup, and I think they're the favorite to take the West. I do. I mean, I don't see Denver being able to guard their two superstar scorers. And then in the East, who knows, man? I mean, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Boston, any one of those teams can take it. They're all really good teams.
Yeah, I mean, Rooster, do you see any obstruction potentially or hurdles to having the top 4? I guess you'd like to see the Knicks beat the Cavs, but I mean, are we looking at Cavs, Bucks? Celtics, Sixers could be a final in any series as second round.
Yep. And Milwaukee is getting better as the year goes on because people are getting healthy. So who knows, man?
You look at that. I mean, the Sixers may have the best draw there. Rooster, you pointed out, about things working out well for the Lakers. Assuming Miami ends up having to play Boston, the Sixers might have the best first round assignment. Don't tell me Brooklyn's that good. I mean, how many wins did they have before they sort of traded everyone away? And I don't know, that just seems like a total mismatch. Like that could be a sweep.
Brooklyn, what's going on Brooklyn right now, I think is akin to Jalen Brunson leaving the Mavericks and going to the Knicks and really becoming more of a star. Michael Bridges left the Suns in the KD trade, is on fire for the Nets right now. And who's the other guy? That was it, Dinwiddie?
Dinwiddie from the Mavs.
Dinwiddie is playing
They
great.
got the Kyrie Irving trade.
They've got no superstars, but they're actually playing better basketball than when they did have superstars. Now, I don't think they can beat the 76ers with that lineup, but they're a fun team to watch now.
Yeah. Well, it is going to be fun playoffs. And I think you're spot on about the 7 seed.
Yeah, those are some scary teams right now.
Yeah.
The play-in
So-
starts tomorrow.
Play-in starts tomorrow, goes through Sunday. It'll be a good week of basketball.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, a couple more things to cover here. Listen, guys, we started off talking about what a crypt is, and we have a brand new sports league, really for the first time in a little while, I think. And this weekend we had the inaugural race of the National Cycling League, and it started off by saying that there were over 50 million cyclists in the US and 2 billion worldwide. So the National Cycling League has come together, and it's really an interesting concept. The values of the league are diversity. It's the first sports league to be majority, minority, and female owned. They really emphasize sustainability. They emphasize community. And then equality. The teams are men and women. And so the way this league is set up is it's 25 laps, or at least the inaugural race in Miami this weekend was 25 laps of the women's team. And it's a 1 mile loop. And I guess there was 10 teams and I think 8 riders per team. There's a lot of bikes out there. Maybe it wasn't 8, but there's a lot of bikes out on the course. But every lap, first place gets 3 points, second place 2, and third place 1 point. So every lap you can score points, unlike traditional racing where whoever crosses the finish line first wins. That's it. You can get points on every single lap. So there's a lot of strategy, and your team helps get someone up there, and then that person, after doing a sprint, because these racers are flying to the end, and they sprint to the end, and then they drop back and let someone else take it on. You can have a substitution. And I'm telling you, it was fun. I mean, it was fun to watch, to be at the finish line and see these racers come flying down. So the women do the first race, it was 25 laps. Then the men go out in 25 laps, points count the same. So it's men and women competing on the same team for the same win. Right now, there are 4 races this year. So they have the 4 races are, they had Miami, and then we're going to have Atlanta, May 14th, Denver, August 13th, and then Washington, D.C. around the National Mall, September 17th. And there are 2 complete paid teams right now. And the 2 teams that are official are the Denver Disruptors and the Miami Knights. Knights like N-I-G-H-T-S, not Knights with shining armor. Not shining, no shining armor. Like when bad shit happens in the night, in bad shit happens at the night in Miami. And those 2 teams are like professional teams, and all the other teams were like semi-pro guys, or just very competitive people who want to get into it. But it was fun because some of the non-pros were winning laps and were out there. So it's a new league. I think it's a lot of fun. Some of their tech is pretty cool. Like their website was real-time scoring. You could be there. Brian Arakpo is one of the big, the former University of Texas and Commanders and Tennessee Titans player. Desmond Howard was there to kick it off. A lot of NFL guys who are involved in this. And it was a good product. It was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful day. It was a little warm, but I think keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on this league. I wish them all the best. And I think it's worth checking out because it's a fun event, and it'll be, we have plans to try and go in Washington, D.C. because to watch that race around the National Mall would be pretty cool. So
That'd be pretty cool.
congratulations to the NCL on their first race, and it was a good product. I hope to see a lot more from the National Cycling League.
So are they all looking for sponsors so they can become like a pro team, basically?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the league wants to have 8 to 10 fully sponsored professional teams out there at some
should the
point.
Sunday Morning Quarterback sponsor a team?
I think we could be the official podcast of the NCL. I don't know.
We have our own team.
By the way, the Denver Disruptors did take the first race. They beat the Miami Knights. So it was too bad for the home team, but that's okay. It was a great first race. Congratulations to those guys. Who's got a punchable face?
I have one. Sorry, Pope.
There.
I'm gonna have to punch. I'm gonna have to punch the Mavs ownership and GM.
Oh boy!
Why are you apologizing to me?
Nico Harrison and Mark Cuban.
I punched Luka a couple weeks ago.
I mean, they've gone from last year being in the Western Finals to a lottery team. What have they given up? They've given up. Jalen Brunson is gone. 5 guys went to Houston who are on their bench, and a first-round draft pick in 2029. They're just making the worst decisions ever, and
they gave up Dinwiddie and
Finney Smith to the Nets.
Brooklyn, and those guys were good.
Yeah,
part of the glue.
They went after Christian Wood and now don't play him. That's who they gave to Houston.
He's gone.
And so the latest thing is Friday, they had 2 games left in the season, and they had a mathematical chance of getting into the playoffs. And they decided to sit all of their starters except for Luka. And the only reason they started Luka was because it was a game commemorating his country, and they were giving out these Slavic, neck things, whatever, scarves, something like Milk would wear, I guess, and and played him for a quarter and then pulled him for the rest of the game. And they blew an 11-point lead and lost to the Bulls, and then were eliminated from the playoffs, all for one reason, because of the Porzingis deal with the Knicks. As long as they got the 1 through 10 pick, they would keep the pick. If it went to 11, it would revert to the Knicks. So they tanked all for a basically 10th pick in what is going to be a very, very weak NBA draft this year.
Who were they tied with?
The OKC, right?
No, the Bulls. Well, for the draft, so the Bulls and Mavs were tied for 10, and the Mavs didn't want to beat the Bulls because then they would have knocked themselves out of the top 10 or the lottery.
But the people who are analyzing this year's lottery class have people like Grady Dick as the 10th or 11th pick. I mean, this is not going to be a team-changing pick with the 10th pick, and you give up and put up the white flag and don't go for the playoffs. I mean, come on, that's just a horrible message to the fans and the team. I think that they have really screwed up. They need a new GM, and they're ruining the career of a generational player. I know you're down on Luka, but the man is a generational player. He is that good. And I think it's just in his head that he hates being in Dallas right now. And I don't blame him with this kind of shit. They're blaming Rick Brunson for losing Jalen Brunson. Maybe it's because the coach sucked. I said when they got Jason Kidd, he's not a good coach. And Jalen Brunson was not happy playing in that system where he basically was second fiddle to a guy who never gave up the ball. And he's a point guard. I mean, who wants to be a point guard playing with a guy who never gives up the ball? You know, only the coach can fix that, and Jason Kidd is not the answer. So, Mark Cuban, get your act together, get a new GM, and stay a hell out of the way.
Yeah, it looks bad. I mean, the Kyrie trade mid-season, I mean, you're going for it at that point, right? I mean,
They
Yeah.
picked up Kevin Love. I mean, why do you pick up Kevin Love if you don't think you got a little playoff run in you?
right, you're going for it, and then to just not even try at the end of the last game to get in. I mean, geez, you got Luka. I mean, all you got to do is get in the playoffs, and you can, you got a chance at making a run, right? I mean, that's Luka and Kyrie right there. I mean,
In a one-game play-in, there's no team in the West that Luka and Kyrie can't beat if they both play well.
All this tanking stuff is bad, though. I just don't know what the real answer is. I mean, what is the answer? I don't know what it is.
I mean, the commissioners really, I think Adam Silver is gonna make some changes. He warned them all this year not to do it, and they all did it.
Well, they opened up an investigation into the Mavs on against the Bulls, the lineup they put out. But I was listening to somebody on ESPN, and I think this is an interesting point. Normally tanking affects all teams, because when you tank, you are giving yourself an opportunity to better than other teams who are going to be in the lottery. But tanking usually doesn't necessarily tie in directly to lottery protected or top 10 protected picks. So this is a tanking of a different order. This is tanking against, a team to impact directly another team, the Knicks, right?
Yeah.
So it's not impacting all the other teams in the lottery. It's impacting the Knicks by tanking against the team that could potentially help them get a lottery pick. So I think that's one reason that the NBA is kind of up in arms about it. But no, I think the precedent's been set. I don't think they'll take any action against the Mavs, but maybe I don't know what you can do though to stop a team from tanking.
Well, I mean, you're right. I don't know what you can do either, except for penalize them in the draft, because it's clear as a bell that the Pistons and the Rockets were tanking all year long for Wembanyama.
Well, the Wizards tanked the last couple of weeks too. The Wizards tanked to make sure they didn't get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
They were winning some games, and everyone was going, "What are you doing? Why are you winning games?" And then they pulled
Spurs.
The plug.
You're right. The Spurs too. I think it would be great if the Wizards got that pick after all the tanking those other teams did. I mean, the other three teams tanked all year long.
Yeah.
Wembanyama. It would be awesome if the Wizards got him after just like a year-end tank.
Yeah.
Well,
the Wizards,
as they say, ball don't lie. We'll see if the Mavericks have a 79.8% chance of getting a top 10 pick. But if one team that's above them or below them, however you want to look at it, but bumps into the top 4, then that'll knock the Mavs down, and they will lose that pick. That'll be a number 11 pick going to New York. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. All right.
Can we do we have another punch? I mean,
I don't have a punch.
Can we? I don't know if we punched the Masters, or I don't think it's CBS, but
yeah.
So the coverage on Saturday, they have what they call featured groups, and that's I believe that's ESPN Plus, because it's done through the Masters whatever their website is, an ESPN app. For whatever reason, and they get to pick them. For whatever reason, they decided that Koepka and Rahm was not and Bennett was not a pairing that they needed to feature, and so we missed the first 4 to 5 holes of seeing those guys. Obviously it was horrific weather, but we missed that, and you don't ever miss the first hole on in the third round of the leading group. So I didn't understand that. Maybe a slap, but do better. I mean, featured group should always have the final group. Period.
Right. Do better. That's a good one. Pope, do you have a lasso for us?
So
gone from a punch to a scold.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Masters, we had quite a performance this weekend of the amateur Sam Bennett from Madisonville, Texas, which their claim to fame is they have one of the Buc-ee's that you would stop on your way from Dallas to Houston. So Sam Bennett was 23-year-old, fifth-year guy at Texas A&M who won the U.S. Amateur last year and therefore qualified for the Masters and the U.S. Open as an amateur. His story, though, is very compelling because his father had early onset Alzheimer's during the time he was in college. I can't even imagine how awful that must have been. He did finally pass in 2021, but he had a saying that he told Sam, which was, "Don't wait to do something." That inspired Sam, and so he followed our own Roosters lead and got a tattoo on his forearm that said, "Don't wait to do something," to memorize whatever his dad had said and to motivate him. And he played inspired golf. I mean, he was -8 at one point. He was in the final group on a Saturday, third round, with Koepka and Rahm. He was played with Scotty Scheffler and beat him straight up. And he became a crowd favorite, and his story was compelling. And he never really backed down. I mean, he finished 2 under. He kind of had a bad final stretch on Sunday afternoon, but he was the low amateur guy down in Butler Cabin, one of the lower amateur scores from that we've seen in a long time. When he got off the course, he was very emotional. His mother and his brother were there waiting for him. I can only imagine, that family had to go through, and that was quite an emotional moment. So a lasso for Sam Bennett and his family in memory of his father. What a great performance that was.
Yeah, it was a great
Yes,
story.
it was.
Really was.
Yeah.
Really a great story. All right, you guys got anything else?
That's it. OBJ
Sounds like
signed with the Ravens.
Yeah. Now if they could just figure out who's throwing him the football.
Right.
Well, I don't think he would have
Sometimes
signed
don't.
unless he knew something about that.
Well, he's never done anything rash in the past, so I'm sure
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
very thoughtful about
Well,
this.
he's 18 million reasons to do it,
Yeah,
regardless
exactly.
of who's
Nobody
thrown
else is
to
going
him.
to pay him that. That's for sure.
Right. All right, guys. Have a good week. More baseball coming, NBA playoffs. Check it all out.
All
Talk
right.
to you guys.